Are you sick and tired of other people crossing your boundaries? Do they just keep doing things that are not okay? Watch this video for some tips on how to actually set boundaries. Hey there, if you're new around here, my name is Diana Garcia. I'm a licensed therapist in Florida and owner of a private practice called Nurturing Minds Counseling. Hit that subscribe button now to get more tips to nurture your mind, body, and soul. All right, let's jump into this week's video. For this week's video, I'm going to talk about kind of simple setting boundaries 101. All right, let's start off with what is a boundary. I like kind of Brené Brown's simple definition. She talks about a boundary, or when you need to set a boundary, is simply what's okay and what's not okay, right? You get to decide in a specific situation what you consider to be okay and what you consider not to be okay. So when someone does something that you consider is not okay, it's an indication that you have to set a boundary with them. Before I go through some simple steps on how to actually set boundaries, check out the description below to see how you can download a copy of a worksheet so you can follow along and start doing the work. Check that out now. Okay, so this is some stuff to do on your own before you actually start setting the boundary. So it's helpful to first just identify the situation for yourself. I find it really helpful just to start off by describing the situation to yourself and try, even for your own purposes, just to stick to the facts. Maybe don't add your reaction or your feelings about it. Just kind of describe the situation for yourself. So for example, when I get together with my partner's family, my mother-in-law has a pattern or habit of making comments about my body or what I eat. This isn't an isolated situation. It's happened at least 5 years in a row. And it's helpful to ask yourself what's not okay in this situation. So clearly it's not okay that your mother-in-law gives you unsolicited feedback on your body and what you're eating. What do you need? You need her to respect your desire and not to get this feedback or commentary, especially since you're not asking for it. I also find it helpful for you to start to think about, like, why is it even important for you to set this boundary, right? The whole purpose and goal of setting a boundary isn't to be mean or cause friction in a relationship. It's simply for you to delineate what's not okay in this situation. And really, it's helpful to acknowledge the more we can set boundaries, the more we're more likely to have healthy relationships with other people, because there isn't going to be this anger or resentment that's showing up. And maybe your mother-in-law is completely unaware. Maybe she is. Who knows? Maybe this is something that you've just had to repeatedly reinforce, which is very difficult. But again, reminding yourself in that instance, it's important for me to remind this individual about this boundary because of my own kind of self-respect. That's kind of the value that's driving this here. So start off by really kind of checking with the other person to kind of set a good time to touch base. I don't recommend that you just catch them off guard or wait to the actual event. So in this instance, kind of calling up your mother-in-law and saying, like, hey, it's now a good time to touch base about something that I really need to talk about. If they say yes, great, jump in. If they say no, don't get dismayed. Follow back up, set another date, or call them again in a week, right? So really try to make sure it's a good time for them. And if it's never a good time, at some point, you're just going to have to pull the trigger. Then you're going to start with, kind of like I did before, kind of stating the situation, explaining and sticking to the facts. So you're going to say, hey, I've noticed that at the last 4 family events, comments have been made about my body image, my weight, and the food that I choose to eat. By expressing what you need. I need you to respect my body and the food that I choose to eat, the decisions I choose to make about my body, and I need you to do that by no longer making comments about my body or anything I choose to eat. If this happens again, I will make you aware that we've had this conversation, and I will tell you it's not okay, and I'll either stop this conversation or I'll walk away from the situation in the moment. And now you're just going to kind of allow yourself to be with whatever feelings show up. Acknowledge that it's completely normal if you feel uncomfortable, if it feels hard to sit with, and also give room for the other person to have a reaction or whatever they say, and really acknowledge that you can't control their behaviors or how they react. They might surprisingly take it well and able to hear you. They might backpedal and say, oh my gosh, I had no idea. That's not my intention. They might try to, shift the blame and say, no, you're just being too sensitive. Whatever the case is, what's really important in this situation, just kind of stick to what you need in the situation and what you're willing to do, right? And again, this doesn't have to come from a place of being aggressive. You're simply saying, if this happens again, this is what I'm going to do. But what's really important is that you follow through in that situation. So if you've already had this conversation, you're at the family event and a comment is made, you're going to say, hey, so-and-so, remember the conversation we had? It's not okay to make that comment. And either walk away or whatever you choose to do in that moment to reinforce the boundary that you said you were going to do. Again, you're just going to have to really make room for however the other person's going to react. And again, you don't have to shut them down, but you also don't have to like backpedal just because either they're getting really aggressive or they're trying to shift. Whatever the case is, just kind of try to be stable and secure in the boundary that you're setting, because again, ultimately all you're doing is saying something that's happening in this situation is not okay for me, and you're the only one that gets to decide what that is. Comment below what would stop you from actually setting a boundary. So in order for this boundary to actually be effective and you to follow through, I want you to plan ahead and think about what about this situation would stop you from doing it. Where's the part where you're noticing you're getting a little stuck so that you can problem solve? All right, guys, go out into the world, go set those boundaries. Remember, you are allowed to set boundaries. It doesn't mean anything negative about you. I hope this video was helpful. And as always, I encourage you to continue nurturing your mind, body, and soul, whatever that looks like for you.